타오야니 왕! 밀란 뭐뭐 우연한 켈라! 조선의 왕은 309 고도례를 행하라!
미니 줄라기다 투치어 여버 충거 신더 너너허 착타버 기수라쿠
밀매요!
Year 1637, King Injo of Joseon performed the 3 kneelings and 9 kowtows to Hong Taiji. From that moment, Joseon, once loyal to the Ming dynasty, officially severed ties with Ming China and became a vassal state of the Qing. Today, let's discuss the rare Korean film Namhansanseong, a movie that doesn't distort history. In the 9th year of the Chongzhen Emperor's reign, Hong Taiji ascended the throne and declared the new name of his empire, Qing. Joseon, which had for generations accepted investiture from Ming emperors, remained steadfast in its loyalty to the Ming and refused to recognize the Qing. Earlier, during the Battle of Sarhu between the later Jin and Ming, Joseon had sent troops to fight alongside the Ming against the Jin, only to witness the Ming's crushing defeat. The later Jin had then sought Joseon's submission, but Joseon refused. Now, with the Qing's power at its zenith, Joseon still refused to yield, enraging Hong Taiji. To eliminate any threat to his rear as he prepared to invade Ming China, he ordered an invasion of Joseon, demanding its submission. A Qing army of 20,000 crossed the Yalu River, marching swiftly southward toward the Joseon capital of Hanseong. This was the famous Bingzi campaign, the first Manchu invasion of Joseon. The Joseon forces were no match for the Qing. King Injo fled with his retinue to Namhansanseong, a mountain fortress, hoping to use its treacherous terrain to hold out. Meanwhile, he dispatched Choi Myung-gil to the Qing camp to negotiate. The Qing's terms were clear. Joseon must abandon the Ming, submit to the Qing, and send the crown prince as a hostage to Shengjing. To the Joseon court, these demands were a profound humiliation. The Joseon ministers were divided into 3 factions. Choi Myung-gil, who favored negotiation, the peace faction. Kim Sang-heon, the minister of war, the war faction. And Kim Ryu, the chief state counselor, who wavered with the wind. Choi Myung-gil and Kim Sang-heon clashed fiercely over whether to fight or surrender. Kim Ryuthan he brought his ministers who had no opinions to disrupt the morale of the army. Choi Myung-gil, however, had witnessed the Qing's military might firsthand. He knew Joseon stood no chance in battle, and that the lives of its people should not be sacrificed for a hopeless war. King Injo was torn. The fortress was ill-prepared for a siege. The winter was brutally cold, and supplies, food, warm clothing, and fodder were dangerously low, enough for only about a month. Injo sent Choi Myung-gil back to the Qing camp with gifts, hoping to buy time. But the Qing commander, Yonggoldae, delivered a chilling message. The Khan himself would soon arrive. There would be no reprieve. Panic spread through the fortress. If Hong Taiji, already locked in battle with the Ming, personally led the assault on Joseon, it meant the Qing were determined to crush Joseon once and for all. There would be no turning back. Choi Myung-gil and Kim Sang-heon's arguments grew even more heated. Kim Ryu, furious that Choi's negotiations had only brought back humiliating terms, incited the court to demand Choi's execution. Injo, swayed by Kim Sang-heon, sent urgent messages to the 8 provinces of Joseon, calling for reinforcements. But the Qing had already sealed off all routes. No messengers could break through. Meanwhile, the Qing established an artillery position on a mountain across from the fortress. Massive cannons, each 3 meters long, were hauled into place, awaiting Hong Taiji's arrival. Inside the fortress, a blacksmith who had attempted a failed breakout noticed the muskets were poorly made, crooked barrels and misaligned sights. Kim Sang-heon listened to his advice and ordered the muskets to be improved. With the upgraded firearms, the Joseon forces, led by Commander Lee Si-baek, won a small but morale-boosting skirmish, taking several Qing heads. The victory lifted spirits, but Choi Myung-gil despaired. He knew Joseon had just burned its last bridge. Supplies grew critically short. Not only were the people starving, but the horses, deprived of fodder, began to die. The ministers clashed again. Led by Kim Ryu, many argued that the straw used for warmth by the people should be seized and repurposed as fodder. They claimed that while people could endure the cold through willpower, horses could not, and without horses, there would be no dignity, no way to fight. This time, Choi Myung-gil and Kim Sang-heon stood together. They cared for the people. Frostbite was already rampant. Taking away their straw would break their spirits. But Injo sided with Kim Ryu. The people lost their straw and their suffering deepened. Soon the horses, now starved, were slaughtered and eaten. The people's brief respite from hunger only made them long for the straw that could have kept them warm. As Choi and Kim had feared, the people's bodies and hearts grew colder by the day. As the new year approached, the Qing suddenly reinforced their troops outside the fortress. Hong Taiji's army had likely arrived. The Joseon court decided to send Choi Myung-gil to the Qing camp with a gift of royal cattle, not to negotiate, but to gather intelligence. But Kim Ryu, ever the provocateur, sowed discord between Injo and Choi. This time, Injo refused to tolerate Kim Ryu's meddling.
영상이 함께 가라. 이 판을 믿을 수 없다는 말을 하려던 것이 아니냐. 그러니 영상이 함께 가서 전하, 영상의 충심을 절대로 잊지 않을 것이다.
정은이 망각하옵니다.
Choi Myung-gil and Kim Ryu arrived at the Qing camp to find it bustling with activity. Ladders were being constructed, cannons continued to arrive, and the Qing troops were well supplied and high-spirited. Kim Ryu, seeing a Korean translator among the Qing, berated him in a condescending tone.
이보쇼 정대인, 그대도 본디 조선 사람이라 들었소. 어찌 그런 말을 쉽게 입에 담을 수가 있단 말이오?
이보시오 영상. 나는 부모가 노비라 태어날 때부터 노비였어. 조선에서 노비는 사람이 아니오. 다시는 나를 조선 사람이라고 부르지 마시오.
Yeonggol-dae received Choi Myung-gil and Kim Ryu. As he ate meat and drank wine, he sneered at their pretense of strength, knowing full well the fortress was starving. Take the cattle back, he said. Let Injo enjoy his new year. After the holiday, he will pay his respects to the great Khan. When Choi Myung-gil and Kim Ryu returned, the ministers who had once followed Kim Ryu and condemned Choi for humiliating the nation now turned on both of them, accusing them of exaggerating the enemy's strength and demanding their punishment. Choi Myung-gil ignored their accusations. Kim Ryu, having witnessed the Qing's might firsthand, now understood that the fortress would fall the moment the great Khan arrived. He proposed a surprise attack on the Qing's weakest defense at the North Gate, both to punish the enemy for their insult and to rally the troops. Kim Sang-heon, the war faction leader, supported the idea, but his true intention was to use the attack to signal the outside reinforcements and demonstrate the fortress's resolve. Injo handed command to Kim Ryu. Without scouting the enemy's true strength, Kim Ryu gathered his forces and marched out through the North Gate. The Joseon soldiers hesitated, terrified by the eerie silence of the mountain path. No one dared to take the first step. Enraged, Kim Ryu ordered his deputy to slash the legs of the hesitant soldiers, forcing the army forward. But as they reached the foothills, there was still no sign of the Qing, until it was too late. The Joseon troops had walked into a trap on the open plain. After a devastating artillery barrage, Qing cavalry charged. In that era, no army could withstand the Qing cavalry on flat ground. The battle turned into a slaughter. Kim Ryu, refusing to accept defeat, ordered all remaining forces to reinforce the doomed troops. But Lee Shi-baek, the fortress commander, knew sending reinforcements was suicide. Defying orders, he sounded the retreat. The Joseon army fled in disarray, pursued by the Qing. The battlefield was littered with corpses. After the defeat, Kim Ryu shifted all blame onto Lee Shi-baek, who was spared execution only through the desperate pleas of Choi Myung-gil and Kim Sang-heon. Instead, Lee was flogged 30 times, and his messenger was beheaded on the spot. With all hope now resting on the relief army outside the fortress, Kim Sang-heon turned to the blacksmith, the same man who had improved the muskets, and entrusted him with delivering a final plea for help. On New Year's Day, Injo and his ministers knelt toward Shuntian, Beijing, the Ming capital, in a display of loyalty. Hong Taiji, watching from the front lines, was unimpressed. Yeonggol-dae, sensing the Great Khan's displeasure, ordered the cannons to fire on the fortress. But at the last moment, Hong Taiji stopped him. If I wanted to destroy it, he said, I wouldn't have come myself. My purpose is to make Joseon submit willingly, to prove the Qing are not the barbarians others claim us to be. He sent a letter to Injo, open the gates and admit your mistake, or the fortress will be annihilated in a few days. The Joseon court erupted in fierce debate once more, but this time, almost every minister insisted on loyalty to the Ming. Exhausted, Injo decided that if his ministers refused to surrender, he would wait for the blacksmith to return with reinforcements. The blacksmith, agile and resourceful, evaded Qing patrols and finally found the 40,000-strong relief army hidden deep in the mountains. Their commander had avoided battle, knowing he was no match for the Qing, but now, with the plea for help in hand, he had no excuse to refuse. A deputy suggested a way out. Why not pretend we never received the message? He plotted to kill the blacksmith and destroy the evidence, but the wary blacksmith sensed the trap. He fought his way free and fled into the wilderness. The relief army pursued him under the pretext of hunting a Qing spy. Cornered on an icy cliff, the blacksmith climbed for his life. Just as the deputy drew his bow to finish him off, a volley of arrows rained down, not from the relief army, but from Qing scouts who had discovered them. The relief army retreated in chaos, leaving the blacksmith clinging to the cliff, unnoticed by the Qing. When the blacksmith returned to the relief army's camp, he found it slaughtered. The last hope for Namhansanseong was gone. Hong Taiji's deadline approached. Injo knew no reinforcements were coming.
나는 살고자 한다.
The ministers finally united in their defiance, prepared one last act, drafting the surrender letter. But no one wanted to write it. Whoever did would bear the shame forever. In the end, Choi Myung-gil took the burden upon himself. The deadline arrived. Kim Sang-heon, refusing to surrender, took his own life. Choi Myung-gil raced toward the Qing camp with the surrender letter, but Hong Taiji's cannons roared on schedule, reducing the fortress to rubble. Qing troops poured through the breaches, and the fortress became a graveyard.
물러서는 자는 내 칼에 죽을 것이다.
조선의 왕이 황제 폐하의 신하가 되기를 이미 맹세하였습니다. 조선의 백성들은 아무런 잘못이 없습니다. 제발 저들의 목숨만은 지켜주소서.
Choi Myung-gil reached the Qing camp just in time. Hong Taiji ordered the attack to cease. The Joseon court burned every document that insulted the Qing. Injo, dressed in the robes of a minister, led his officials to Hong Taiji, kneeling in submission.